Air and space, or probably you mean what is aerospace, which is my expertise. Air is a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen and few other gases. The dry air in general has about 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen, and the rest is the all other mixture or elements in the form of gases or powder of other elements. What we need for breathing is air. Air in fact means oxygen. The rest, which is nitrogen, is an inert gas which help to dilute the oxygen and provide any chemical reaction inside the body. Not the sort of chemical reaction that we require, of course, is done by oxygen. The rest of them, which is not required. Space is a general word, which means just whatever which has 3 dimensions, and every point is recognized by 3 dimensions of X, Y, and Z. But in the context what we're talking about, aerospace, we have a specific meant by air and a specific meant by space. If you look at the sphere of the Earth, then a thickness above this sphere is covered by air, the mixture that I already talked about. The air thickness can be divided to few layers, but 2 layers are the most famous one, or the most well-known layers above the surface of the Earth. The first layer is called tropospheric layer, is about 12 kilometer or 10 kilometer. The troposphere is cover about 75% of the weight of air. If we go upward, up to 100 kilometers, the properties of air drastically changed, specifically pressure and density. So the pressure reduces, density much reduces. Above 12 kilometers, the amount of density or pressure of air is very, very low. So the whole this 100 kilometers is called air. Any object is flying in this area is back into aircraft or air-related technical objects. Just above the 100 kilometers, we start to go to the space. The question might be, if this is the starting point of space, where is the end point of space? This is a very crucial question, and this is something that was in mind of most scientists during the years and centuries, that is the space is unlimited, or is limited, is it finite, or is it infinity? Based on the current achievement by scientists, we can say that the space is limited, but is uncountable. It's very, very big. There is no recognized level for as the outer level of space. Physically, it has no meaning either, because we assume that the whole universe are itself is not something beyond of the universe. So there is no meaning what is beyond of this space. And when we talk about this space beyond the air and beyond the earth, we have to look at an important event which is happening between galaxies and planets. That is called expansion. The expansion, in fact, means all the galaxies or all objects in this space are getting distance from each other. From the time that we started this talking here up till now, the distance between the galaxies in the universe has been increased. This is not only between galaxies, but is applied to every object in the universe. Expansion, in fact, as I said, talking about how the different objects getting escape from each other or getting distance between them, is not only applied to the galaxies, as I said, is applied to all planets. It's applied to the planet that we are living there, is Earth. In fact, in every single of a time, the Earth is getting bigger or fatter. If we go inside and see the surface of the Earth, and for example look at this building, within the time this building getting bigger, every single person who is living in the Earth is getting fatter. So from 10 minutes ago to now, everyone gets fatter. That means they are much bigger or in volume. That's the real meaning of expansion. Expansion applied for every single particle is not the objects like, as I said, it goes to the atom, it goes to the neutron, proton, the distance between them. So every single thing in the universe at the time being is under expansion. That's the meaning of expansion.
Can you speak to me more about expansion? Is it a literal expansion? Are me and you getting further apart as we speak now?
Yeah, actually, we are getting distance. But why you don't feel it is a matter of scale. To have a better understanding about the scale I'm talking about, you know how far the galaxies are from us. Okay, let's start from this point. From here from London to, say, Sydney, it takes maybe 15 hours flight. Or 20 or whatsoever. The whole perimeter of the sphere is about 40,000 kilometers. That means the current civilian aircraft takes 40 hours to rotate once around the Earth. 40,000 kilometer, 1,000 kilometers per hour means 40 hours. Yes, just give a rough idea about what numbers we are really talking about. The distance between Earth and Moon, which is the only moon we have, is about 10 times of this perimeter, which is about 400,000 kilometers. The time that the light takes to travel from Moon to Earth is about 1 second. Because light speed is 300,000 kilometers per second, or 300 million meters per second. The time it takes a light travel from Earth to the Sun is about 8 minutes. If you compare 1 second with 8 minutes, you can see how the difference is. Earth is one of the planets close to the Sun in the solar system. If you go to other planets, the distance between them to the Sun is much increasing. It's over hours and days and years. The time that light take travel to go from one point to another point in 1 year is called 1 light year. If light travel 300,000 kilometers per second, you can imagine 1 light year, which I would say Ly, how big is. The distance between our solar system to other solar system is in the figure of millions of Ly. So you know the combination of many solar systems provide a galaxy, and the combination or assembling of many of the galaxies produce a bigger galaxy that we call it cluster galaxy. We have millions of solar systems in our galaxy, which is called Milky Way. And there are millions of galaxies in the cluster galaxy that we are living there. And in the universe, there are millions of cluster galaxies. When we talk about getting distance between the galaxies, and you compare this distance with our distance, which is 1 meter, 2 meter, you can see this is absolutely ignorable. In the other word, I would say our distance was 1 meter 10 minutes before, but now is, I said 10 meters is really 1 meter. 1 meter, point too many zeros, 1. So how many zeros? It's hundreds of zeros. So you can't calculate, you can't measure this distance is changed. But in reality, based on the expansion theory, all the distances are changing or increasing. So it's applied to every single matter and object. Big Bang Theory is the most convinced expression about the age of universe. In fact, this is widely accepted by scientists and is a fruit of too many theories that's already been developed within different scientists within the time. Probably Einstein, in a time between Second and First World War, was initiated some concept which finally concluded to the Big Bang Theory. And after that, Alexander Friedman expressed another theory, and then Hubble. Big Bang Theory talk about the origin of the universe. If you just cut the time being that we are now in 2014 and look at the whole universe and how big it is, and considering that the universe is under expansion, if we go to the contraction, that means if we go back or flash back to the past, not 1 year, not 2 years, not 10 years, 100 years, billion years, 4 billion years before it was Earth which is produced. Not only Earth, but also the whole solar system. Of course, it wasn't a one-off creation. It was a continuous process of creation. But roughly about 4 billion years ago, the solar system, including Earth, have been created. If we go back more and more, 5, 6, until 13.79 billion years ago, then due to the concept of contraction, that means the all planets, solar system, galaxies, getting closer and closer and closer. On that time, which we can call it the beginning of the universe, or time zero, it was a pack of combination of, I can say or imagine a combination of some stones or sands and small fires inside a ball. And that ball, that dark ball that we don't know what is inside or what was inside, it was dense and very hot and very pressurized. The word very doesn't really give the correct idea, because the scientists cannot talk about the time equals zero. They talk about just after that, which is about 10 power minus 15 second. 10 power minus 15 second, and after that, something happened that the scientists can express that. For example, in 10 power minus 11 second, first particles have been produced. In a 1 second, energy has been produced, or energy in the form of photon have been produced. In a few minutes, we have helium, hydrogen, which produce, and these are the raw material for the fusion which is happening in the sun in a few minutes time. About 700 million after that, galaxies have been produced, and is continued. So the time between 10 power minus 15 to 0 is a gap that scientists cannot talk about, because scientists talk about something which is feasible and which can be measured, or by using equations or hypotheses they can prove it. I can say that at the zero time we have infinity temperature, infinity pressure, and infinity dense material. Even when I say material, it doesn't mean really correct, because we don't know if Is it a real material or is something? Just something with a very high temperature and density and pressure. And infinity doesn't have meaning in physics. It has meaning in mathematics. Mathematics we use a lot about infinity. But physics is always talking about something which is limited. And therefore this is the time that scientists just give up and say, we are tired now. Let it for philosophers to talk about this.
Yeah, the future.
At this time, what is the future? If I want to give a picture of the future, the best answer is we don't know. But there are some theories or some concepts talking about the future. One of them is continuation of expansion. They say whatever we have now would be expanded in the future. How long and how much? Again, there are some different ideas and different expressions. One of them saying that all the planets or suns or solar system get colder within the time. Either is expanding. They are expanding, at the same time they are getting colder and colder. And in one time, in a long future, it would be freezing. So that's one of the ideas. Another expression about the future is rather expansion. It goes to contraction. In the other word, the same way that if we go back, we see that how the different objects get closer and closer. In the future, these objects get closer and closer and contracted. That means in one day in the future, probably 4 billion years or 5 billion years, because we don't know when the expansion stops and then start to conversion. Within few billion years, we would have the same thing that we had at the beginning of birth of universe. There are some ideas that they say this expansion and contraction all together is one process of the existence in general. And this process may happen again. So the idea is expressed at the word of membrane. So that's one membrane means one unit of existence, which may be continued or repeated in another form or another shape on the future. If this is correct, we don't know where we are, or one of these membranes we are. Is it number 4, number 6, number 10? Don't know. Of course, there is another expression which says that after a long time after this expansion, the universe status goes to stationary and remain consistent, which is less follower actually. The more scientists are thinking about 2 others. But this kind of things is rather than scientific, it goes to more philosophical.
Can we try to understand God by understanding time, space, and dimension?
You probably know that Einstein has a theory which is called general relativity. he talked about the relation between time and space. And his theories say that every object or every system is under movement which has space and time integrated on it. If it wasn't integration, that means we have time separated from space. It's like we have a clock on the wall which starts from zero and is running by itself, independent of the time. We have objects and devices which take space. We have 3 dimensions space. But Einstein's saying that this is not correct. Every object has space and time integrated in it and is under motion.
You were speaking a bit about intelligent design, and there has to be a creator or someone to control it. Do you think it's possible that this world is created without an intelligent designer?
If a company can run without a managing director, if a country can be run without a president or leader, if any device can be made accidentally, if any system, any life system can run without any control system or any management system, if this camera can work without any planning, without any programming, and without any intelligence on producing it, if this small thing can be happened, we might be able to say that the whole universe just happened accidentally and is running accidentally and is expanding accidentally and is managing inherently by itself due to, say, sustainable, for example, force is incredible, is not acceptable at all. Even if we believe this, what about the raw material that was at the beginning? Even we say that there are many materials someday has been created or just produced or dropped from nowhere and it's just left aside for inherent management. Still the question remains alive, how they produced, how they came to the power. So we can see the universe should have a high amount of power, a high amount of intelligence, a high amount of management and controllability. So is a combination or is an integration of many subjects get together, produce a correct running of the universe. I give you a simple example, another one. You know the angle of the axis of the Earth with the axis of the Sun is 23.5 degrees. And because of this angle, which is rotating, when the Earth is rotating, we have 4 season time, summer, winter. If this angle, rather than 23.5 degrees, reduces to 23.4 or increases to 23.6 degrees. Within the time we don't have 4 seasons, we don't have life in the earth. This is a small example which talk about the relation between earth and sun. So any disordering on the running of the galaxies and the universe, which damage and demolish everything which we have. This idea, including the enriched idea of Big Bang, which is saying that there is a creation and the time and space has been developed from that time, it tells us that the creator should be over it, because creation or creature is something that you create or you produced by another object which surrounded it. So we know that the universe has been created one day. So there should be on the top of it a creator which is different with this. So the time-space concept has been born when the universe is born. But the God does not take or does not fit in the time-space. I like to point out an interesting thing about the Big Bang. When you ask this question, I just remember that this expression that when we talk about something which is developing or increasing, we always have something beyond of that, okay? For example, a baby get birth now and is entered to the world, which there is above of this baby and space. But when we talk about universe, it wasn't any space beyond of the universe when it started to generate. In fact, space and time has been created at the same time when the universe started to be created. In fact, the universe gets fatter and fatter inside itself, okay? Not inside another space.
So what lessons have we learned from the Big Bang?
What lessons we get from Big Bang? The first lesson is that the universe has been created. This is against of the idea that the universe was eternal in the past. This is not correct. The universe has been created in a specific time, which is 13.79 plus minus 0.03 billion years ago. This is very crucial lesson that we can get from Big Bang. Another one is that the Big Bang saying that the universe has been created or produced gradually. It wasn't a one-off production. This is against the idea that's saying that the universe, it is created, but it is suddenly created and left as it is. Left for the people who decide what they want to do. The Big Bang saying that the creation is a continuous process and is continuing. And the continuation is gradually happens. We don't know in what stage we are, but it probably is one of the stages of the whole creation. Another lesson that we can get from the Big Bang is that the expansion and development of the universe is continuous, is not stop, start, stop, start, dead life, dead birth. It's not like that. It's a process of continuous. In the other word, since it is expanding, therefore it needs immediate creation. And therefore creation is continuing. Creation doesn't stop. So creation is continuing within the time, and we don't know what will happen in the future. Either is expansion continued or contraction, still the requirement for creation exists. For sure, we can get another lesson that the universe, like any object which is under process of developing, require management. Can we have a system without management? We need management to be able to put everything on its position and the creation going forward in the right way. So it requires management and also require control. Every life system requires control. And not only a controller like a switch that we push a button and say it's just on or off. It's not like that. It requires immediate control of the system. Every system requires control. That's another lesson we can get from Big Bang. I also like to point out that based on Big Bang theory, it was first skies produced, and the Earth was long after that. The age of Earth is about 4 billion years, where the age of universe is 13 or 14 billion years. So it was first skies, galaxies produced, and then solar system, and then Earth, and then life. So we have this sequence of the creation. We know that from cosmology or astronomy, that we know that we have just one Earth. And there are a lot of solar systems, a lot of galaxies, cluster galaxies. So we can say there are a lot of skies in the universe. This is against of the idea that they thought that the Earth is a land and there is a ceiling which covering the land, and there are some lights on the sky, and the sun rises at the morning and set at night. It's not like that. We have absolutely a different picture about the universe and how Earth and sun, solar system, and galaxies working. Another interesting thing is that everything in the world is in movement and in motion, and is not only quantitative or qualitative motion, is substantial motion. We can see that not only human or animal or plants, but also all solid things, all the material, all on the process of movement. So everything is under movement. This is also an interesting lesson that we can get. There is no consistent object in the universe. Everything is under movement. And the movement, as I said, is not, as some of the philosophers believe, that we have 4 types of movement which happen on the object, and it's not substantial. There is substantial motion for the objects. The short answer is that as we have scientists who believe God and scientists who pretend that they don't believe God, we can say that, well, science and religion might be 2 different things. But I would say that everyone believes in God, everyone, even if they pretend that they don't believe or they are atheists, and they tried to find, they couldn't, they tried to check it, they couldn't, they tried to test in the laboratory, they couldn't. I believe, for example, if you are inside a pool and you are totally wet, and someone asks you, are you wet? Is there water around you? You can say by word that, no, I'm dry, there is no water here. But in reality, you are inside the water and you are wet because of the water. Our mind, our wise, our understanding, our intelligent, these are all signs of the God. These are a portion of the God Spirit to the people. So by word we can say, I don't believe. But every scientist, I think, at the end should say that there is a power, okay? There is a power, there is intelligence behind of it, there is a management, there is a control system, there is a big power. Okay, if you don't want to call it God, and you prefer to call it, I don't know, whatever, okay, I don't mind, call it. But you can't get rid of this, that the universe, which is created, requires creator, and the creator should be wise, should be intelligent, and should be high grade of management. This is quite short answer, but if I want to go through the longer answer, probably we don't have time, but I give a clue that if we look at the whole knowledge in the world, we can divide this knowledge on a part which we call it science and a part which we call it philosophy. The science talking about the physics with the tool of mathematics. The philosophy is a general knowledge which also surrounding the science. So the science cannot deny or accept God based on science itself. None of the system can run by 2 different map and different drawing. A company cannot be run by 2 managing director because always there were conflict between them. If they do exactly the same, there's no meaning to have 2 or 3 or 4. If they do different means a conflict in some stages. So the universe, which this high level of regularity and high level of intelligence cannot be run by 2 or 3 different power, which each one has its own map and has its own Gantt chart, its own program. Is not possible.
The soul, is there a scientific way to describe what the soul is?
That's not a duty of science, because soul is not material, and science is only talk about material, and its quantities and qualities of material-oriented or material-related matter, which can be experienced, which can be repeated, and which can be denied. So this is the duty of science, but the soul is not a scientific, is not a particle, is not a solid, is not a liquid, is not a particle. So it's not a, I can say it's not a duty of science to talk about soul. It's not only soul, when we talk about God, it's the same. Because God is not a matter, is not a material. So the science can help the philosophers, science can encourage and support the ideas of philosophers, but it's not their duty to confirm and to prove that there is soul or is not. And of course we believe there is soul. We know that human, in fact, includes 3 different things. One is the body itself, which is a live body is equal to dead body. That's one of portion of the human. It has another portion, we call it power. Like a power of breathing, power of thinking, power which can make sin, power we can judge, power can grow up. So that's a power which is not unique. And there is another one which is soul. The soul in human is not split. The word that's saying that every human has one soul or one spirit is wrong. All the spirit of all human is just one soul, and that's soul of God, which spread to the human, and therefore every human has a power to grow up and to think, to find, to discover, and to analyze. Earth and the solar system, it back to about 4 billion years ago. The number is changing within the time because different scientists have different approaches. They talk about 3.5 billion years or 4 billion years or 4.5 billion years, but roughly 4 billion years ago. There are some signs showing that life has been created or produced or existed about 1 billion years after the birth of Earth. If this is correct, we don't know what type of life we had on that time. Probably some of the ideas talk about cells that then is duplicated and grown up to be animal and then homo version of animals. But there are something happened within last 3 billion years. Like, for example, it says that we had a giant type of animals and a collision between an asteroid and Earth caused a big vibration on the Earth, and some of areas get fired, and therefore those animals have been died and disappeared. But the whole life, perhaps in the form of plant, still was alive. It is said that animal has more history than human. And a kind of ape, which is called Homo, has been produced about 1 million years ago, or 10th of million years ago. Again, there are different words about this. And but what we can understand about the human, the version that we know today about human, it probably back to something between 10,000 and 50,000 years ago, which this type of human has been created. It's not necessarily the completion of an animal like chimpanzee, that some of the ideas say. It might be another form of, say, animal or human, or it might be just a new form of human we just created on that time, and that might be the start point of the new version of human that we know today.
Is there life on other planets according to what science has shown?
We don't have any evidence at the time being that there is life in other planets. Or the, for example, Hubble telescope or Kepler telescope, they can realize and they can capture is stars and some planets. Even we don't know what is exactly happening on our neighbor solar system. So as I said, there is no sign showing that there are people or animal or life in general in other planets. But if you are asking the possibility of it, yes, I can say it is possible. Because for life, we require air. If we talk about the life that we have, the same version of life rather than other type, it is possible if there is water, if there is oxygen, if there is nitrogen, and it is possible. So we might have a duplicated solar system somewhere in the universe, and one of the planets would be the same as Earth, and there might be some evidence of species. But except what we see in the Hollywood films, that there are aliens coming from the other planet and fighting with the people here, or there are some people get mission to go to other planet and beat them. Above that, in reality there is no sign yet. Yeah, there are possibilities of having another universe. One is a sequence of universe. So we made a multi-universe. That means the universe at the moment we are in is one of those universes. When I say universes, that means one universe and then another universe. So this universe might be number 4, might be number 6, might be number 1, we don't know. That means before it probably was another universe, and after that there might be another universe as well. So that's one theory which science are talking about and thinking and analyze it. In addition to this, there is another concept talking about parallel universe. That's also multiverse, which means the same universe that we have now is exactly parallel to it. There is another universe somewhere else, and we don't know. As I said, we don't have facility to find out. But the universe theories or hypotheses point out these kind of things, yes. Another section of the life or another version of the existence in this current world as well. So that might be, I mean, we are in the 4th billions years after the birth of Earth. It might be after another 4 billion years, this type of human and life being demolished, and then a new type of, a new generation of the life or universe just appear. Yeah, it is absolutely possible. And the science, of course, is thinking about either is not visibly or experimentally can be proved, but they use mathematical support to talk about these ideas. Energy. We call it conservation of energy, simply. That means energy cannot be disappeared and cannot be generated from the nothing. So the energy is keeping itself sustained. Conservation of energy. For a system, the energy input is equal to energy output. It can change its form, but it won't be disappeared. That's exactly correct. But if we go to the scale of universe, this expression is not fully correct. We have a better expression saying that we have conservation of mass and energy. In fact, mass and energy together remain conserved. So there might be some change from energy to mass, or mass to energy, which is happening in the sun, as an example. But the total amount of mass and energy, even they have different units, but all together remain conserved. This idea comes from the starting of the universe, which was a huge bulk of mass and energy, which then stage by stage converted to the current form of universe. About the question that is the science able to interpret death and reveal again on the other world, and is there any other world? As I said, science has obligation to talk about something which is visible, which is practicable, can be tested, can be repeated, and can be denied by finding something against. Okay. For when we talk about another word, it's never happened, and it's not something that we can repeat or can be tested. So the science, or I could say experimental science, has no role to interpret this kind of matter. But if we want to get some help from science, we can. But in this context, the question is, what does it mean? What does death mean? If we mean that something happened to the body and the body explode to the smaller particles and finally disappear, and that's it, well, the science has no word against of it, because all the bodies are like this. They dissolved within the time, and the rest of the body would be bone, for example, which probably within billion years they will be disappeared. But if we believe that a part of a human is soul or spirit, and it's possible that the spirit or the soul revive after a period of time, yes, it is possible. And science can help in this matter with the expression of the future of universe. If we believe that the universe would be contracted one day, that means we look at the universe as an object which has a birthday and a death day. In this context, we can talk about other world which may happen. Again, in science, in contraction with the universe, we have multiverse. They say there might be the whole universe we have now. There is a parallel universe on the other side that we don't know about. And there might be too many universes which all together make multiverse. That's, of course, is a theory. It's not, it can't be proved by the facilities that we have today. Time is not something independent of the objects or independent of the space. We usually define 3 dimensions for every object, and that is called space that an object takes. The concept which is talking about independent time against space is saying that time is something which runs at the first beginning, at the early beginning, by switching on the time, and is going by itself. It doesn't care about what is happening on the objects. This is rejected by Einstein in about 90 years ago by the theory of general relativity. And he says time, space are integrated and is defined by the motion of an object. That means time is not something which is created or exists independent of the objects. Another theory that Einstein has, and is very interesting, is specific relativity. And an example of this says that if you can travel with the speed of light, your age won't be increased. The interesting example he said is, if you are a twin, you and your brother, and then you are living on the earth, and your brother boarding on a spacecraft which can travel with the speed of light, and it goes through the sun, and it takes, I don't know, it depends with the speed, but if speed is equal to speed of light, it takes 8 minutes. If it goes over the sun and go to another solar system and then go to another galaxy, and after 50 years, if he come back again with the speed of light, your age would increase from 20 to 70. His age wouldn't change from 20. He remains at 20 years old. That means time is relative, is not an absolute, and is not an independent matter, is fully dependent and integrated to the material. That due to the Ly, which is light year, or the speed of the light, if we see that two stars are colliding now, and due to the long distance between us and those stars, it happens million years ago. But the light which radiated from that point until getting to or reaching to us, it takes million years. So whatever we see now is something happened million years ago. That's fully correct. But in short scale, when we talk about something around us, of course, whatever we see is reality. We can feel it, we can sense it. This is against of one of the philosophy which saying that there is nothing in the earth. Idealism. They say whatever we see is just imaginary. There is nothing in the earth. Everything is imaginary. But in reality, we can feel that there exist different things. The water, the camera, the man, everything exists. We can see that.